Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. Today we have Dr. Peter Martone. Dr. Martone is changing the conversation on sleep. It's obvious that sleep is vital to health, but how you sleep is just as critical. This is where Dr. Martone delivers. Story combined with his 23 years of expertise has taken sleep and health optimization to a whole new level. His uniquely different structural approach is catching fire in the health space, and his product, the Neck Nest, is bringing life-changing results that sell itself. Are you ready to improve your sleep? If so, keep watching and listening.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
Dr. Martone, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate that interview. It's on fire. So,
Shit. Well, listen, this is I'm glad we got a chance to get this going because we both live busy lives and have awesome careers that have taken off, and so I always want to honor and respect your time and appreciation for showing up today. So thank you. And I think for the listener and the viewer, this should serve as an opportunity for you to be a fly on the wall in catching up, because I actually have some experience with using the Neck Nest, and I'm a huge proponent of sleep quality. And in fact, if any of you have read my book, The Awareness Shift, one of the second most important piece to the 5 pillars is pillar number 2, which is quality rest and recovery. And in that section, in that pillar, I talk a lot about improving your sleep environment. And what we're going to talk about today is going to certainly help in that. Dr. Martone, I would love for you to maybe break down your background and how you got into this space and some of the cool things that you're doing today.
yeah, thank you so much, Josh. It's really, and I think it's an interesting story because I don't think that anybody ever wakes up and says, "Hey, I'm going to be a sleep expert." It is going to be so inspiring, so entertaining, and that's the space I'm going to move into. I really zigzagged into this industry, and I really wasn't trying to help people sleep. I was trying to help correct something while people slept, right? See, so my history is I'm an exercise physiologist and a kinesiologist. I was a professional trainer. So I love the study of biomechanics, or how the body moves and functions in space. And then that led me to the chiropractic field, where I'm practicing chiropractic at this time. When I started designing the Neck Nest, I started, I was 15 years in practice. I had back pain every day of my life. I had neck pain every day of my life. Well, not every day, but my back, I did it. And then the neck on and off. And then I had shoulder impingement syndrome in my shoulder. And I had all this pain, but I always attributed the pain to my highly competitive sports career, where I'm a mountain biker and like skydiving, I ski, during the summertime, the windsurf. So all of these things that I'm still adjusting patients. And I'm like, well, pain's normal for me because everything that I do, and that I'm in the office, adjusting people, getting them out of pain, telling them pain isn't normal. So I really live in this kind of contradiction in lifestyle. And I'm like, great, because I got ADD, I'm a great justifier. So I find my pain away based on just my, I was getting adjusted, and it was good for a few days while I would get adjusted, but the pain would always come back. And it wasn't until 15 years ago, actually over that now, that I was mountain biking. I was going across this log. It was like 8 feet off of the ground. And I remember my back was bothering me. So I moved my back. And when you move your back here, your handlebars turned, but because I was on a ski log 6 feet up on the ground, your handle had to jump off the log. And when I landed and compressed against the rock. So I remember tweaking my back, and I'm like, that one's going to hurt.
Yeah.
2 days later, I couldn't move. My disc ruptured. My entire leg was numb. I can still remember, telling my wife, I'm like, I need to go to the emergency room. Your handle, I said, you got to call an ambulance. She was like, I'll just take you, jump in the car. I'm like, your handle, move. I was in so much pain. I'm screaming in pain. They asked my wife, they gave me so much morphine. They asked my wife at the emergency room if I was a drug addict because it was in so much pain. It wasn't until I had that Dilaudid that everything kind of started to settle down. But your handle really sympathize with people that have chronic pain because I felt it, internally. So then I'm sitting there in the emergency room, like, how can it get to this? I've had back pain my entire life. I've been helping people with back pain. And I'm sitting there fearing if I'm ever going to bike again or if I'm ever going to be able to practice again. Your handle said, I gotta figure this shit out. This is really bad. So I started reviewing x-rays. And I started looking at one x-ray, another x-ray, another x-ray. And after looking at 3,000 x-rays of 1,500 neck ones, 1,500 back ones, I came up with a pattern. And I found that when somebody has forward head posture from texting all day long, computers all day long, and sleeping like I did, curl up in a ball, texting, you lose the cervical curve in your neck. And when you lose the cervical curve in your neck, texting the active, what's called psoas major muscle spasm, and then your hip twist. So as the head comes forward, the hip twists. And the psoas is the only muscle in the human body that attaches directly to a disc. So what happens is when that psoas spasms to twist the back, it causes a depressurization of the disc, hence the weakened disc for the last 15 years. So I'm like, no way, no way, no way. That happens when you lose the cervical curve. In 85 to 90% of the time, you're going to have the hip shift, and in most of the time, you're going to have a slight scoliosis in the lower back. And then once I was thinking, like, how am I going to change this? How am I going to change this? I'm like, the only thing I can think about is the 8 hours I spend in bed. I can sleep in a position where I can stretch that neck back. And in theory, if I fix this, I'm going to be able to fix my lower back. And I have had no lower back pain since I started down that path. And I never had surgery for that lower back disc issue. And I'm doing more than I tell people. I'm in less pain now at 51 than it was at 39.
First of all, it's a beautiful story. Thanks for sharing. And the part that's beautiful is the fact that you went from your own situation and then discovered ways to help others. And I kind of find that to be the case for most of the people that I bring onto the show, because we all deal with our own issues, right? And, I even had another practitioner that was on the show that developed his product and his business based on the fact that he was also adjusting people, but yet he was taking the brunt of all the pain, right? And so it's interesting that you point that out, and it sounds very traumatic. So I'm glad you got through that. So I want to kind of put myself in the shoes of the listener and the viewer, because if you're watching this, you may have noticed Peter putting his head back and saying, okay, I'm going to be here for 8 hours or however long you sleep. This would be the best opportunity. And I can't help but question, or at least ask, is what you discovered a situation in which you have to always be on your back when you sleep? What about side sleepers? What about people who sleep on their stomach? Do you have a solution for that?
Yeah. So you have to realize, now, 15 years later, I'm deep into the sleep industry and really taking my science and understanding of neurology, immune system, psychology, of how the brain works, especially with ADD and comfort. You have to understand, sleep is a product of letting go. The thing that really screws up sleep is a conscious brain. It screws everything up because it says, I can't, I can't do that. There's no way I can't shut down. So the subconscious brain, the conscious brain screws everything else. Screws everything else. Then you have the subconscious brain in the body. So what we don't teach changing your sleeping position for the entire night or you have to be in this position. We teach a 10-minute sleep ritual where all you have to do than it was put yourself to sleep in a specific position, create for the body, than it was safety. This is key for the subconscious brain, because the conscious brain, when it mistakes as comfort, then it was really safety of the subconscious brain, because the goal is the conscious brain to hand off and let go to the subconscious brain. The subconscious is in control of sleep, not the conscious brain. So all of our excuses and what's and I can'ts, that all happens in the consciousness. So we need to retrain the conscious brain. So what we teach is, we teach a 10-minute sleep ritual. You've got to put the body in a very specific position, which is where your weight is distributed over the greatest surface area, and your neck is supported a specific way, and your head is not, and I'll explain that. That's called the corrective sleeping position. Then you create safety for the conscious brain using pressure, using sleep mask, pressure against your forehead, the way that you use your covers. Then we teach the technique of then out of your own head and handing off to the subconscious brain to be able to fall asleep. Then all the lifestyle habit is that you fall asleep a specific way, then start the night. Then whatever happens in the middle of the night happens within the middle of the night. People that think, oh, I sleep on my right side. Let me tell you something. You don't stay on your right side, because the number one reason people toss and turn is because they're in pain, and you are starting in a position that is unsustainable, like I did when I was a kid. We were always taught to go to sleep, then taught how to sleep. So you go to sleep, in these curled up little balls to feel safe, but you're going to start tossing and turning. The average person will toss and turn 20 to 40 times a night because the body is in pain. Then,
perfectly said. And I feel like I can go down so many rabbit holes with you. And so I definitely want to then maybe touch on some of those points you mentioned, because the person that's watching and listening is like, wait. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about some of these specifics. And I will commend you on what you've created, because when I hear neck nest or neck cradle, I think of support. I think of comfort. I think of, sort of like when we as adults, we become parents and the kids finally all leave the house, they say that, they've left the nest, right? The empty nest syndrome. That just assumes that the nest is a wholesome place to be. And so I love the name of it, which is remarkable. And I know we talked about this before we started recording. I first heard about your work on Dave Asprey's podcast, and that's what prompted me to start diving into some of these protocols that you just mentioned. And so if you're able to, I'd like for you to kind of maybe give a few pointers, because what you just gave was great. But then how do we expand upon that? What would be the next set of things to do?
Okay. So first of all, think about sleep. Let's first think about the structure. This is really ultimately where I believe every sleep expert on the planet, or people, when they talk about sleep and they talk about positioning, get it wrong, because they don't understand, and the medical profession doesn't appreciate the connection between your structure and function. So structure equals function. So what I mean by that is the brain controls everything in the human body, and it does so through your central nervous system. And the structure of your spine directly affects the integrity of that central nervous system. So when the body is out of alignment, what it does, it affects the way the nervous system functions, and it throws the body into imbalance. In that imbalance, what it does, throws the body into disarray, where you have immune system issues, digestive issues, hypersensitivities within the hormonal system. All of those are connected to a specific nerve in the neck called vagus nerve. So as your nervous system gets thrown out of balance, because you have two systems in your body. One system is called your sympathetic nervous system, and then the other system is your parasympathetic. Your sympathetic nervous system is your survive nervous system, where you have to survive. You're going to fight. Your cardiovascular, your heart rate goes up, your respiratory rate goes up, blood goes to the musculoskeletal system. That's survival systems. And then the thrive, or the parasympathetic nervous system, is your thrive systems, where your body grows, repairs, and recharges. Those systems are reproduction system, and digestion. So when you're surviving, you're suppressing thrive. And when you're driving, you're suppressing sleep and drive.
Yeah.
So survive is awake, sleep is at night when you rest. So if we are sleeping in certain positions, like curl up in a ball, and we lose the structure of our cervical spine, you're going to suppress the system that needs to be engaged in order to sleep. Most people that, let's say, detox at night or a significant imbalance, or they have woken up at night because their core temperature is running too high, it's because you're too sympathetic dominant.
Yep.
So addressing the structure first, by even if you can't sleep like this, the first thing to do, roll up a towel, get a pillow, get something under your neck so that you are looking straight up at the ceiling when you try to fall asleep. Even if you're there for a half an hour, as you get that curve back or you get that neck arched back, you're going to improve the stimulation of the vagus nerve, which will then help you relax.
So there's probably a number of people tuning in right now that imagine their sleep situation, right? And then that's what I want everyone to do at this moment is, whether you're listening or watching, I want you to just kind of take a moment to identify how you sleep. And then, are you the person that feels like you have to have 2 or 3 pillows stacked up because it's more comfortable? If so, then I want you to consider what Peter just mentioned, which is you want to have your chin away from your chest, so to speak, right? Or you at least want to have your neck cradled instead of the head cradled. And so when a person has several pillows up on their bed, usually what they're doing is they're cradling their head versus their neck. And so if you're watching right now, you can see Peter has lied down and he has the amazing neck nest underneath his neck to where his head can fall back a bit and his nose and eyes and lips are kind of facing straight up at the ceiling. And that is a beautiful way to rest. And so I would encourage a person to think about that. Like he just mentioned, you could take up a rolled towel. If you're not quite convinced of what he's selling here yet, go and try it. Try rolling up a towel. The cool thing about the neck nest is that it feels amazing. It's constructed very well. And I actually have 2 of them because I used to travel with one and leave another one here at my apartment. And so as you see it there, that looks very relaxing. You look like you could fall asleep right now on this podcast. So that is a quick visual of what the neck nest looks like. And then Gordon will probably input some of the images from the website at this point. But that's a really good start, right? Identify where you are. Do you sleep with high pillows? Because Dr. Martoni, like one of the things I did before I got the neck nest, I used to be a proponent of sleeping without any pillows. Now, I incorrectly went from sleeping on pillows to then immediately sleeping with no pillow. And I'm sure you can imagine what happened. It's a lot of discomfort. I get it. A lot of discomfort. But when I started to listen to more about what you were saying, I realized maybe I just have the whole pillow situation wrong. And I sort of compare this to what's happened in the foot industry, which I'm a big proponent of natural foot health. And so the same situation applies there. If you are finding that it's important to allow your foot to move and to splay properly and have a wider toe box and have, no heel raise, and then you decide to go out and buy a shoe, like a minimal shoe or a barefoot shoe, and you immediately start running marathons in that thing, you're going to get hurt. We don't want to do that. So what I would suggest is to listen to what Peter's saying and then try to progressively go into this state that we're talking about, which is cradling the neck. So
I'm going to give you, because I know you're speaking on Speak this week, and I am going to give you some explanation of where pillow is wrong, which is going to then bridge the gap to what you can talk about feet, and it will blow people's mind. You ready?
I'm ready.
So I am going. So the body adapts to stress. Stress is a force that causes change. You have eustress, which is a good stress, and then you have distress, right, which is a bad stress. So for instance, if I put my arm in a cast and I restrict all movement and I support the arm, will that make the arm weaker? I am going stronger. I am going to make the arm weaker because the body adapts to support by weakening whatever you support. So in the absence of stress, you are going to weaken the body. So when you arch support, you weaken the arch. When you back support, you weaken the back. When you cervical support, you weaken the neck. When you anytime you hear the word support, think about weakening, because you're taking the normal function of the body and you're minimizing it. Like when you take thyroid medication or support, you weaken the thyroid. You weaken the testosterone. So think about support as weak. Now, when you noticed, I said this goes under my neck. That technically is neck support. But the weight of your head is off of the back of the neck nest, resting about a half an inch off of the bed, which is gently using the weight of the head to distract. Distraction is a stress, which will gently stretch the curve back into the neck. So as long as you're using some sort of stress, the body will adapt to changing the structure of the spine. So when you use sneakers, a sneaker is a support. That's why we have bad arches and bad feet, is because you're using arch support. And then the more you support the arch with higher arch supports, the worse you're going, making the whole entire problem. So that is a good thank you to you.
Thank you for that. I don't think I could have said it any better. And it's nice to hear it coming from you, because I didn't even prompt you on this or prep you for that. And I think what would be cool is at some point in the near future, I'd love to have you come back on and we can pound in on that conversation even more, because you're right. I kind of call shoes, modern day shoes, foot coffins. Or foot braces. And so let's face it, and this is part of what I was going to be talking about on the stage at the biohacking conference this weekend, but if we imagine putting our arm in a cast, we know that, okay, it's beneficial for a period of time, acutely beneficial, because
it's beneficial if there's an injury. It's never beneficial. So
yes,
so let's not talk about that. There's no benefit unless it's a broken bone or something and you need to minimize the stress or alter the biomechanics because you've adapted somewhere else. It's never beneficial for the body. The body will always atrophy when immobilized.
Yeah.
And after 3 weeks is irreparable. You have irreparable damage.
Absolutely. I think even for people to sit here and imagine if they've ever broken a bone or hurt themselves, like you correctly pointed out, we probably realize that at some point that cast is going to come off. And every time that cast comes off, we notice how much atrophy happens in whatever part of the body has been casted. So, but the point is to actually have it come off and then do what? Rebuild it, to make it stronger, to work on it. And so if we liken shoes to foot casts, then at what point are we supposed to take the cast off? Most people that I speak to, they hear me talk about barefoot problems or barefoot shoes and how they got injured, this and that. And then I ask them to take off their shoes and they have an orthotic. And I say, okay, maybe there's a small percentage of people that need orthotics, possibly, but never for a lifetime. However, I ask them, how long have you been using this orthotic? And they say, well, I've been using it for 10 years or 20 years or whatever. And then I go, well, why? Right? Like, the whole point is to make your foot stronger, not weaker. And what do casts do? They make it weaker. So this is a really good piece of the conversation that I think does deserve a little bit more diving into. But I appreciate you being able to compare that to what your expertise is, which is sleep. Of course, many other things, but that's a fun conversation, because I like how you also pointed out that although the neck nest could be classified as a support, there is that bit of opening up and that bit of work, that bit of distraction, right? And I think that's a really good piece to key in on. What are some of the things that you typically see when you first work with someone let's say person's been unable to sleep well for a period of time, they have pain, and they come to you, they order your product. What are some of the first things that you're hearing whenever you talk with people?
I can't sleep like that. Everything I hear is the subconscious, is the conscious brain making excuses of why, because ultimately they're not making excuses, because changing your sleeping position is so difficult because really ultimately we classify the body into, I could classify the subconscious brain into three animals: a gorilla, an armadillo, or or an ostrich. The gorilla is so confident it can sleep in any position, anywhere, fall asleep anywhere. Those are the people those are the people where the reason why they're great on my product is because they're immediately going to be able to stay in that position for extended periods of time and get transformation. Most people are the armadillo. They roll, they fall asleep on their sides, they roll up in balls. And then, so this is protection. You notice, and another thing I'm gonna help you with is muscle atrophy is actually brain atrophy, because it's the nerve that's atrophy, and you're losing what's called proprioception. As you lose proprioception, you atrophy the nerves. So when people curl up in a ball like this, they walk like this, they're walking forward, toe forward, and they lose their balance backwards. So you don't have any confidence in this posterior plane. So then when I sleep you on your back and you're looking up, people have nightmares that they're falling backwards because their bodies are constricted in the frontal planes, and they're digging their toes into their shoes, which is causing bunions to form because you're leaning, you're shuffling gait. When you lose your balance, or the longer you sit down all day long, the more that you wear sneakers, the more your brain atrophies due to, dementia, things like that. You're going to have this forward plane posture. So go sleep back. You need to create like an elevated sleeping position. That's why I have this bed wedge for a lot of people at the beginning, or you can put 2 pillows down and sleep slightly elevated. So when you start in that position, the subconscious brain doesn't feel like it's being attacked or it's going to fall backwards off the bed. And so that's a good gap to be able to try to start sleeping on your back, because I can already answer, because I know the avatars so well, I can already answer your objections before you even say them. Most of the objections is, I'm going to snore, I can't breathe like that. If they sleep on their back, they usually a pillow under their head, which closes down their airway. That's number one. And, number two is, I'm a side sleeper. There's no way I can fall asleep. But that's the subconscious brain. That's not your body. Your body wants the alignment. Mm-hmm. And so they're just all of these things that happen. But once I am going to you, and we love you, and we hug you, we just tell you just 10 minutes. Just try to fall asleep like that every night. That's the lifestyle habit. I am changing the way you sleep for the rest of your life. You will, because your body won't toss and turn anymore. But you just start like that. And as long as you can start like that, you're going to be correct.
So let me ask you this. Have you had any experience or suggestions around the idea of sleep tape?
Whatever works for somebody. Typically, I just don't like having tape on my mouth. Some people do. I take another pillow and I put it underneath my chin. My mouth shut and hold my neck back. So that's what I use. Or I use my covers up underneath my chin so my head doesn't fall back down. The issue with sleeping on your back, sometimes your head's going to fall down, right? That's what closes the airway down. So the research says, well, you have your neck up. So your jaw angles open so that your tongue can't even close the airway down. Because it just can't fall back that much. But the mouth can open up, and that's why I keep those covers right up underneath our jaw.
So now, most of us probably know this idea of the lymphatic system, which is enhanced while we move around and we walk around, and we get these little mini vibrations going through the body, and that helps to kind of get rid of different toxins throughout the body and whatnot, right? But then there's the glymphatic system, which I know you know a lot about. And for those who are listening and watching, this is that idea of the brain cleaning up all of the byproducts that happen from the usage of the brain throughout the day, right? And so we want to optimize blood flow and glymphatic flow by allowing for this proper positioning. And so I think that's another thing that is important. So could you maybe touch on that? Because it's not just, to me, it's not just about the skeletal system being in alignment, which is a huge thing, right? But it's not just that. It's also allowing for proper flow. So can you talk on that a bit?
Yeah. So I am going, when the spine is in alignment, the channels, I am going the thoracic sheath, I am going the spinal cord, everything opens up. And as they open up, when you breathe and you inhale and exhale, and this happens, that's a slow count. And as long as you have good, the cerebral spinal fluid will flow around the core, around the brain, through the spinal cord, and it flows all the way through. Then the brain can properly detoxify. What happens is especially in the research study that they show, they stated that lymphatic drainage happens better on your side. Research study was done on a rat, and the rat has a totally different cervical structure as does the human. But in there, they have a significant statement that states that we're finding this in rats, and therefore we're going to, that the best position for lymphatic drainage for humans is on your side. Well, what they don't understand is the structure of the spine plays a significant role in how the brain detoxifies. So what really needs to happen is what they really are missing is that lymphatic drainage happens best when the spine is in alignment. And that's where this flow can happen. So when you have dural tension due to loss of cervical structure, it doesn't matter what position you're in. It's not going to happen with ease. So we want to make sure that we are able to sleep in these positions, which really key though is trying to manage the airway so you keep your mouth closed and that you're able to breathe correctly, because breathing plays a big role in the natural pump of this lymphatic system. So sleeping on your back or even starting on your back, I am going that mouth shut with your covers for the first hour, 2 hours, maybe it becomes 3 hours, is going to be critical to basically improve all of your lymphatic drainage systems, especially when you're awake and really the pump really starts working.
And the important piece to recap on with that is when you allow yourself, like Peter said, even just starting with 10 minutes in bed to try to fall asleep in that manner is going to suppress that the cortisol or the sympathetic system, which will then give you an opportunity to increase that parasympathetic state, which after time, like we say to people, make your bedroom your safe space, right? Like don't have TVs on, don't do this, don't do that. Set it up so that when you're about to go into the bedroom, that the body feels, the mind feels, the whole system feels that it's time to go to sleep. And when you can start to create that habit of just doing 10 minutes in the beginning, lying in the proper setup, cradling the neck, doing all of that, then over time, that habit will become sort of your lifestyle. And like you said, hopefully just by default, your body craves that. And so then you end up being able to sleep like that. So I just would encourage people to give it a shot, try it out. And then, of course, we can look at some of the other products that you have, like the wedge. I never used the wedge. I do use that idea of using my pillows to kind of angle me up just a tad bit. So that's pretty cool.
A lot of times people mistake that with the angle of their neck being. So if you sleep slightly elevated, you still want to have your neck back.
Yes.
It's the angle of your neck that creates when you sleep. Because we want to, so where I'm an expert, I am going. Some people will be able to tell you more about the brain scans and stuff like that happen at sleep. But I want to have you become more productive while you sleep. I want to take your time in bed. I am going with it. I am going to take your time in bed and be able to align that spine, because that's going to improve your neurology. And ultimately, what that's going to do is improve your posture, because you're going to start changing the way that the brain fires, because body posture adjusts to end position. So as you start to bring that neck back and that head back, your core is going to start firing differently. Then you take that, then you start working on balance during the day. So you put both of those two things together. You get the corrective sleeping position down at night, and then you work on your balance during the day. Iron Goat is balanced better. Iron Goat with supported shoes on, or is balanced better when you're wearing barefoot shoes or even done barefoot. It's so good to work on stimulating as much as you can proprioceptively, getting as many signals firing in the body as you can to be able to improve optimal state of health and wellness, especially neurological.
And what people should notice from getting this improved sleep is the facial structure changes because of better breathing. If you get it right, your skin tone becomes a little bit better. You may find yourself waking up refreshed and actually feeling like you got sleep, whether it's 8 hours or 5 hours, right? Obviously, we want to spend as much time sleeping as we can. But some of the things that you can expect when you do get your sleep posture right and you get your breathing down properly, then so many other things, it just bleeds into the rest of your life, which is huge. Again, it's why it's probably one of the most important pillars in my book, because obviously we need to get the sleep down. So I want to ask you about this, because I'm sure you have some experience in it, but when you first started talking about your accident and how much pain you were in, the first thing I think of whenever there's pain and there's inflammation in the body, one of the first things I always encourage my clients to do more than anything is grounding. Do you have experience with grounding? And if so, how do you implement it, or how have you used it in your life?
Yeah, so I believe, we are a product of iron, rhythm, earth, sun, elements. And when you eat food, we've been on this for, decades. Also a beekeeper, so I love sourcing really natural food. I eat from the garden. I'm Italian. When you think about food, right, you think about energy. You think about fats, carbohydrates, and proteins. Oh, this food's bad for me. It's because it's too high in this. It's too low in that. But we lose something that's called sun energy. So when you take curl-on photography, which is a photography that can look at auras, the amount of food that harnesses the most amount of sun energy, I am going to give you the brightest aura. And like cabbage versus cooked cabbage versus natural cabbage. The cooked cabbage doesn't give you as much of an aura as the natural cabbage. Why? Because it's harnessing this energy from the sun. Iron goes also something from the earth, and that is, the magnetic field that actually involves within the core of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have an insulating layer from your shoe to your body, that's almost like you can take a leather wallet and then touch the two ends of a hole of a battery and not have any charge. You take your tongue and you put it will create that charge and give you a sound. This wallet insulates this electromagnetic connection to the earth. When you take off your shoes and you connect to that, you're bringing ions down through the skin and out the body, which are, positively, negatively charged ions, and you are grounding that ion exposure of free radicals, and you actually can detoxify and decrease pain and decrease inflammation by just sticking your damn feet and putting them on the grass. So I'm barefoot most of the summer.
Well said. And that's a beautiful explanation. And the reason why I bring that up is because I feel like the ultimate hack, and there's obviously so many things that we can do to improve upon our sleep environment, but what I like to do is, so I take the neck nest and I put it inside of a grounding pillow sheet. And so I'm getting the grounding, because a lot of people, when they hear about grounding, even the way you explained it, not that it was incorrect, as long as you get any kind of skin contact with a grounding source, then we are technically grounded, right? And so what I like to do is I shove the neck nest inside of a grounding pillow, which, by the way, the neck nest is much smaller than an average pillow. So there's plenty of material that can kind of move around. And what I do is I just make sure that the grounding pillowcase is touching my neck, and then the extra bit I kind of run it down my upper back, the low neck area. And so I'm not only getting this good posture with sleep, getting good breathing, because I do like to use sleep tape. I know it's a bit crazy, but so I use sleep tape. I keep a cold environment. I have a nice pillow topper or mattress topper that runs cold water through it, and I have it nice and dark. And then adding that grounding pillow to the already improved sleep posture has been a game changer for me. It's been an absolute game changer. So anybody that's interested in that, obviously, stay in touch. I'll put some links in the show note to that. I'll also put some links to the Neck Nest website, in which we can give some discounts and some cool things happening over there. But this is really fun because obviously we're talking more than just sleep, but sleep is that catalyst to improving longevity, to building longevity. So what else? I guess my next question would be like, what else do you see? So let's say that you get a person, if they've got the wedge, they've got the neck nest, but they find themselves still just not able to get the proper sleep that they need. What else do you suggest, or is there anything else you can do to enhance that situation?
Yeah. So like I said, one of the biggest things is start with positioning. So you start with positioning. I am going, you got to get out of your own head. And that's one of the biggest things for people. They can't shut their own brains down. But one of the reasons why people don't, there is different stages of sleep. You have deep sleep where the body recharges, and then you have REM sleep where the brain recharges. So you get body recharge the first third of your sleep cycle, and then the REM sleep cycle, the REM happens towards the end. So what ends up happening is, in order to get good deep sleep within the first third of your sleep cycle, and you really want that to be before midnight, your body core temperature needs to drop by 1 to 2 degrees. And you want that to happen naturally. So some of the, in your body core temperature, and this is really important, follows your respiratory rate and your heart rate. So you need your heart rate to drop, your respiratory rate to drop, and then your core temperature will follow. Now, what things keep our heart rate elevated? Stimulants. I am going off past noon time, because the half-life of caffeine is 5 hours. So you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of caffeine after noon, and you really shouldn't need caffeine as a stimulant. You should use it as just to kind of keep you focused, because if you need it to wake up, then you're chronically fatigued. So you need to, try to figure out some things around sleep. And then eating too late. A byproduct of digestion is heat and an elevated temperature, which elevates your temperature and a high respiratory rate, which keeps your heart rate up. So you want to stop eating within 3 hours or 4 hours before going to bed. You want to stop caffeine after a certain time. I like people to stop caffeine after 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. and not have it past then. Once you fall asleep and you're laying down, you got to remember, you can't think yourself to sleep. You have to remember yourself to sleep. So you can't think about something that's happening either today, that's happening tomorrow, or rationalize something that's going to happen next week. You got to remember something that happened in the past, because it's already been filed in your brain, and you're going to access the centers that are closest to your symptoms.
That's it. That gets it right there. I mean, that's driving the point home. Very well said. So I would encourage people to at least try, because I think that's exactly what I did. Now that I recall, when I first heard your podcast, I did that very thing. I went and I ordered the product, and then until it arrived, I was just using a rolled up towel. People can do that, right? It's not ideal, but it is a solution that can get you going to at least start you on this journey of figuring out, okay, is this going to work for me? And then from there, I would say reach out to Dr. Martoni. I'm sure there's different ways that we can get in touch with you, or hit me up, right? I can talk to you about my experience with it, but I promise you, when you can dial in your sleep better, everything else works better. Your brain works better. You start to feel more confident. You look better. I mean, let's talk about better workouts, better eating habits, because when you're exhausted from not being able to sleep properly, then decision-making fatigue hits instantly almost, right? And so by the time we get throughout the early afternoon, we're so drained and so bogged down because we just didn't get proper sleep that we'll just eat anything that's nearby. And then that ends up cascading into this huge effect of overweight, putting on too many pounds, being frustrated, feeling depressed. So I just say all this to say, if you want to improve your life, why not try it? Try cradling your neck instead of cradling your head. And then let's see what happens with your sleep. Before we wrap up, are there any things that we haven't had a chance to touch on? Because I know your expertise goes wide and far. We could talk about so many things, but before wrapping up, I want to make sure that we hit on some important points that you want to talk about today.
Well, here's the thing. So I would just tell people this. I am going to just start with the first 10 minutes. And the thing that you're not aware of is how connected your sleep is to everything. Every function that you have in your body is some way, shape, or form attached to either position that you're sleeping in, how much you're sleeping, your quality of sleep. So spending the time in respecting your time in bed and optimizing the time you spend in bed is really one of the best acts you can work on to improve almost every aspect and quality of your life. So just put some time into it. And, if you, like you say, you need some help, you can kind of reach out to us. And you can find me at drsleepright.com, drsleepright.com, or at necknest.com. We'll talk about that. Or you can even, look me up on Instagram. I do a bunch of free videos on Instagram, which is at Dr. Sleep Right. And you go to Dr. Sleep Right, you can even take your sleep risk assessment for free to see how your sleep patterns are affecting your overall health and well-being.
That brings me up to another question that I would be remiss not to ask. Is there, or are there any contraindications? Is there any person out there that this may not be right for at this point in time?
Yeah, so I'm going to tell you that, there are different things within your spinal structure that I am going to limit your ability to be able to sleep in this position. I am going to have some spines that come into my office. They're severely degenerated. They have severe stenosis. But you're talking about less than 1% of the population. You're talking about significant atrophy within their spine, a lot of rib humping and stenosis, really towards the end stages of our life, like the last 10% of our life, that we really don't want to make many changes. But if you are, say years old and younger, there's a lot of benefit that you could have still by changing and optimizing your sleep.
Yeah, the reason why I asked that is because I think about one of my specific clients, and I won't name names. He's an older gentleman, and he has pretty extreme kyphosis in the upper back, right? And so I can't help but notice anytime that he's relaxing, he's watching TV, or he's about to go to sleep, he always, even when I stretch him after a workout, he constantly feels like he has to have pillows up to support his head. And of course, here I am hearing all these great things about the neck nest, and I'm like trying to encourage him to support his neck instead of his head. And he was just like, Josh, I just can't do it. And so what I've eventually been able to do is just reduce the amount of head posture, head forward posture, while he's in these quote unquote relaxing positions, because I try to encourage him that it's not relaxing. It might feel relaxing to you consciously, but subconsciously you're in a state of fight or flight when we're supposed to be relaxing right now, right? And so I think this should be something for people to hear. It's like, okay, if you don't have if you're not a part of this 0.5% of the population that has like a severe issue in the back, then we can get you there, right? And I will say that we eventually got him to have no pillow when I'm doing the stretches, but he still feels like he has to have his pillows while he sleeps, which is kind of undoing it. But like you said before, we got to start somewhere. And I'm happy that at least we made that improvement while I have time with him.
I am going.
Yeah. Okay. I usually like to ask a couple questions at the end of the show when I have an exciting guest on, and you definitely fit the bill here, just so that we can get a better understanding of who you are as Peter and not the Dr. Sleep Right, but just as Peter. What is your top 2 pet peeves? What is something, it doesn't have to be about what we talked about today. It can be about anything, but what are a couple of things that just get under your skin and just frustrate you?
So what frustrates me is when I see people that are good people and they get so upset because somebody else is judging them. And in this person's judgment, they let affect them at a really core level. Like, judges will judge, haters will hate, players will play because of their own self, I don't know, self-interest. And most of the time, they're jealous of whoever they're judging, but the person who's being judged doesn't have that self-confidence or that emotional stability, and they let other people get at them. And that really is a pet peeve, because good people are good people, and the haters and the judges really affect these people in a negative way. And I try as much as I can to really bestow confidence in people by helping people find their why, find their direction, their purpose. A person that is put on this planet that has purpose, I am going to matter what people judge them. Like for instance, somebody says something about, oh, what's your training in this, or what's that and that. Listen, it doesn't matter.
Well said.
This is the direction I'm going. This is what I've done all of my research on. This is where I'm going. You may look at other sources for your, anchors and stuff, but this is what I'm promoting. So I hate the judges, not the judges, because people are going to judge, the people that let that judging get out. I mean, I'm saying this because of some specific things that have happened to people that I, love.
That's a big one to consider for those who, like most of us, are involved in social media. And I promise you, I get asked this all the time, but people will say, I have to detox from social media. And I get it. I do get it. Right. And then they ask me, like, I don't see how you do it, Josh, how you can put your work and your life out there, because, people are always talking crap about this and that. And I just don't let it get to me, because like you said, if you feel wholeheartedly that what you do, what you present, it comes from a good place, then that's what should really matter. And even on my website, my bio basically explains that I utilize experiential wisdom. It's not about what the data says, although there is data to back up a lot of the things that I'm saying, but we have confirmation bias all the time. And we can go out and on the same one topic, we can go and we can find something that supports it. And in the same instance, the next instance, we can find something that disproves it. So the point should be, what is your experience? What is your experience with trying something, right? Like I try to say to people, I most likely will not have you do anything that I haven't done myself, haven't tried, or haven't tested. And even that doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. It just means that there is some experience in it working for me. So why not try to pass that on to you, right?
Because 250 million people believe in a bad idea, it doesn't make it a good idea. Because the worst time to stretch of any part of the day is in the morning when you wake up. And then I get hammered on that, right? From, oh, no, you got to stretch first thing in the water because your muscles are tight. You don't want to stretch when your muscles are tight. Your muscles are tight because they're protecting your joint. So all of this shit that people just say, that people live with, when you are going against the grain and you're changing the status quo, that's when when you're making a difference. And you can't let what other people say waver you on the direction that you move in. So that's one way that is. When you
That was a really good one. If you have another one at the top of mind, that would be great. But that was such a good one that we could go to the next question if you need to.
yeah, and then another one is when you put on this planet, you put on this planet for a purpose and a reason. And people get frustrated because they go from job to job to job. They think the problem's a job. One of the things is wasted talent. I hate when I see talent that's wasted. And really, it's not that they even know that they're wasting how good they are. It's just that they haven't done the introspective time to find out their why. So when the why is big enough, the what doesn't matter. That's why my why for sleep was so big. It was like either practice again or, or I wasn't going to be able to, be mountain bike again. So I didn't care. I just changed my sleeping position. It was horrible. It caused so much pain. But then finally on the other end of that, when now the what is now, it's hard, easy. Hard at the beginning, easy now. Easy hard is doing the same thing and not changing. And then hard is having just the same result. So wasted talent where I tell people all the time, listen, you have so much potential. You just need to drive that potential when you a mission or something that you need to create. And then your anxiety will be half. The amount of time you're wasting all day long will be half. The addiction to other drugs will be much less because you're on purpose and you're creating something in your life.
Okay. Thank you for that. Both of those are really good points. I hope people hear this and get a little bit motivated, because I'm a motivator, you're a motivator. And at the end of the day, we're trying to be guides through this through this journey we call life. So I hope people at least tune in, if nothing else, tune into that bit. And my last question, and one of my favorite questions, is what is something you're most grateful for?
And I really focus on this quite a bit. I'm so grateful for God giving me a conscious life that I'm living. I live life very conscious filled, where the time that I spend with my family is the time I'm spending with my family. The time I'm at work is the time I'm focused at work. And I try not to let life pass me by. So I'm very grateful on the gift of constant recognition and living in gratitude, being grateful and taking the time to take a breath to appreciate where I am. And I always live just go, 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 go. Found myself burnt out and in a really bad place. And then pulling my head out of the rabbit hole and really living a conscious, purpose-filled life to maximize my impact on humanity is what I'm most grateful for.
I love that. Okay. Hopefully everyone is as excited about this chat as I am. And if they happen to find interest in reaching out to you more directly, what are some of the best ways for people to get in touch with you and your company?
When you say go to drsleepright.com, take your free sleep risk assessment. At that point, you'll get some feedback as to, how your sleep is impacting your life, and then you can move on into our membership. We have a sleep membership where you come in, all of my sleep courses, all of my drip education, all of my educating group formats and live calls, all live within our membership. And then if they're interested in neck nest, we can put a link. We'll give them, a special discount for getting a neck nest and trying it. And on the neck nest website, we can get through Dr. Sleep Right. When you love the education on the videos, if you do decide to get a neck nest, please, 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 please remember this. When you can't find a more comfortable pillow to help you sleep, you need to find something that's more functional. Then function will become comfort after pain. So pain is not that. So if the pain of change is less than the perceived value, nobody's ever going to change. When you just understand, not pain as far as neck pain, or back pain, but when you able to cause change, and the body is always going to push back and hammer you. When you watch the videos at necknest.com, when you do it, use it in the middle of the night. If you wake up and you hate it, throw it on the floor. Just start with it. And you do that over a period of time, even if it's not the pillow you sleep with the entire night, that's fine. You're still going to have great change. When you
have it, folks. So I think that was a very in-depth conversation around how we can sleep better, which is kind of what I lead you to. In the beginning, I mentioned if you're someone that wants to improve your sleep, keep listening. And so I hope you did that. Feel free to reach out to Dr. Peter Martoni. And like he said, we will provide a link in the show notes and in the description so that you can go and find your own. We'll also include some of the other links that I talked about. And if you have some feedback for us, if you want to hear more from Peter, please feel free to reach out to us. Let us know. And Peter, thanks for your time and sleep tight.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks, Josh. Thanks for everything.
Peace.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seatbelts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.